I invite you now to take a deep breath and close your eyes if that's comfortable for you as we join together in a time of prayer with ministries around the world that are praying these words. The Christ within you is your hope of glory. The Christ within you is your hope of glory. May the Christ infill our hearts and minds right now. In quiet communion with God, peace and calm sweep over you. You are hushed in the awareness of your available help from God. Feel God's presence in the silence of prayer. You relax and let go. In your mind's eye, you see a peaceful place. Perhaps a green meadow with a quiet stream. Here you are safe. Here you feel the presence of God within and around you. You let go of thoughts of the day, for this is the time to be alone with God. Find your secret place. And as you release your concerns, you set them adrift in the quiet stream that carries away all cares. You are utterly relaxed as you affirm these words silently within. God fills my world with peace. God fills my world with peace. In the silence of prayer. We take this comforting God thought and let it settle deep within. The Christ present is here with you, with us, and within us now as light. Whatever decision we need to make, we make with ease and confidence, for we are filled with the light of Christ. We recognize this light within ourselves and within each person in our hearts as we pray our prayer for guidance. God is my counsel, directing me in all that I do. Rest once more in the silence of prayer. We are now like a water garden refreshed, renewed. You are strong and whole as we pray our prayer for healing. God heals my body and soothes my mind. We are grateful for this life we share together. We are grateful for each other in this time of holy season of Christmas. We take this renewed spirit and move on in our life, touching all the lives that are near and dear to And we say it is a wonderful life. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. So it is.
So it is.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Maurice Guerette. And the title is, What If I've Never Been Born? And that's a quote from the wonderful movie, It's a Wonderful Life, by James Stewart. How many of you have watched it? I think everybody has.
20 times.
At least. And this year, unfortunately, I won't get to watch it because I don't have TV.
Aww.
But I still remember it so well that I wanted to speak about it today. It seems there was a man who hadn't gone to church in a while. So the minister decided to go visit. And he lived out in a nice cabin out in the woods. So the man stopped and knocked on the door, and the gentleman let him in. The minister went in, and they greeted each other and sat in the living room by the fire. And there was a wonderful fire going in the fireplace. And they just sat there and looked at the fire. Not a word was spoken. They just sat there and looked at the fire. And the minister didn't say a thing. But he got up and took the prongs and he took a log out of the fire and set it on the side and watched it burn by itself. And there they sat for another hour. And all of a sudden, that one log just kind of went out. And the other fire was going profusely. Had a nice flame going. So after 2 hours, the minister looked at his watch and he decided, well, it's time to go. So he got up to leave and he went to the door, but before he did that, he took the log and put it back on the fire with all the rest of the logs. And immediately it sprang up. So they bid farewell to each other, and the man of the house said, by the way, thank you for coming and for the fiery sermon. I'll be in church next week. So it tells us that one log by itself does not burn totally. But it has to be together with other logs. And that's part of what we are too in this world. And that's why we go to church, to be with other people. Well, in the movie, It's a Wonderful Life, George seemed to get into a dilemma. If you remember the story, $8,000 was lost, or supposedly, through the hands of Uncle Bill, who inadvertently passed it wrapped in newspaper to Mr. Potter. And Mr. Potter, being the Scrooge that he was, kept it. Ha ha ha. So George was kind of delirious about that because he had to find it because the bank examiner was there. And they lost $8,000. So George was just beside himself. And he got so irate that he went home and he was just so concerned of where did it go. And Uncle Bill couldn't remember what he did with it. At his age, sometimes memory does slip by, you know. So he tried to tell her, I don't know what I did with it. And of course, Mr. Potter was just gloating. So George got so upset that he was hollering at his wife and his kids, and then he decided to go drown his sorrows. So he went to the martini bar and sat there and drank. And drank. And drank to the point where he was kind of inebriated, and he went out and ran his car into a tree, and it was snowing, and it was a beautiful evening. He went to the bridge, and he was looking to jump in. And as he looked down, he saw somebody down there crying for help. And he jumped in and saved Clarence Oddbody. It was funny, wasn't it? And they sat in that room, and in the bridge room there, and they talked. And George asked him, "Why did you jump in?" And Clarence says, "To save you, because I'm your guardian angel." And George says, "What? I'm your guardian angel, and you were ready to jump in by yourself. But this way you jumped in to save me. I'm here to protect you and show you what kind of life you deserve to have." And George tells him, "Well, it would be better if I had never been born." And being it's a movie, they have the right to do things like take you on a journey. Like last night, yesterday afternoon, we went to see the carol, Christmas carol at the high school. Same thing, same story. The spirits. Here it was just Clarence. So Clarence took him on a journey to see what life would be like in Bedford Falls without him. Well, first of all, it wasn't Bedford Falls, it was Potterville. Because Mr. Potter owned everything. So George felt useless. He took him on a short journey to show him what life would be like without him. And he realized. So today we're going to take a short journey ourselves, because I think deep down we all have a secret within us. Deep within us, we all have a secret. You probably won't believe this, but I absolutely believe it's true. That inside, perhaps deep inside each one of us, we really know our value, our worth, and our purpose. Our importance. We really do know it. We just don't take the time to reflect as they do in movies, to see what life would have been like without you. You don't know the difference you've made in people's lives throughout the years that you've been interacting with others. You don't know the value of that. And each individual, we are here for a reason, for a season, or for a lifetime with each other. And that's part of it. We're not born losers, but we are not born winners. We are born choosers. We can choose to be happy. We can choose to make a difference. That's our choice. That's what God gave us. Free will. We've just forgotten what that's like, as George did. He forgot. Our perspective is like his perspective. It's kind of off. We don't realize it every day. Here we're talking about having higher thoughts and having God thoughts. Having God thoughts about things. What would God do? What has God meant for me to do? We don't know these thoughts until we usually think about that when we get into struggles or when things don't go our way. What would God have me do? So what is it we have God thought about ourselves? It says, as we have come to open our thoughts to a greater acknowledgement and acceptance of the divinity that resides within us, we find ourselves on the pathway to achieving the purpose for which we were created. To express the nature of the divine, the source of our being. We were made in the image and likeness of God. Jesus knew that right from the beginning. Right at birth, he knew his purpose in life. Sometimes it takes us longer to realize that. But what if we had a God thought? And then another God thought. And another about ourselves. Who we really are. We're important to this community. You're important to your family. You begin to express the nature of the divine. You do wonderful acts of kindness, especially this time of year, don't you? And then you hear a bell ring as the story goes, when an angel appears in your life. And there are so many angels that appear in your life day to day. Certain events take place and you realize, well, look at that. Isn't that wonderful? There are many miracles each and every day that come into our life. We just don't understand that sometimes we are the miracle. We make a difference in other people's lives. And you said yes to that unique and beautiful and glorious you know yourself to be. And it isn't a matter of being conceited. You think highly of yourself. And you're not afraid to give love, especially in this season of love. You really already know that you are just so special. You just forgot, like George. What if you had a God thought, another God thought, and then another God thought, and then you decided to live on purpose? Why you were sent here? What is your purpose in life? Not as in a predetermined plan, but on the higher plane for you. I think we can all agree that sometimes children, in their innocence, see and say things that are so much more aligned with spiritual truth than we do. Out of the voice of babes, wisdom comes. Jesus said it, we must become as little children to enter the gates of heaven. And children, we don't always understand them. But let me tell you a story, a true story that took place in 1993. A gentleman by the name of Lloyd Glenn of Mission Viejo, California, was on a business trip. He got to Washington, D.C., and he had an emergency phone call over the intercom at the airport that he needed to call this number. And it was the emergency room of the hospital in California. It seems his 3-year-old son had been caught under a garage door.
Ooh.
An electric garage door. So he heard he got off the plane when he got back to California. Went to the hospital, and he saw his son laying there. He said it was the 6 longest hours of his life when he had to fly back to California. As he looked at his son laying there in bed, hooked up with all the tubes and whatnot, he felt absolutely physically ill. Not only had the sternum of the little boy been crushed by the electric door, and they didn't know yet the extent of the damage to his heart, but more than that, they were worried about the damage to his brain, because when the wife had found him, he was already clinically dead. When she screamed for help, a neighbor who happened to be a doctor came over and administered CPR. He was rushed to the hospital by ambulance, and a fire truck was there too. However, he'd been unconscious and without oxygen for so long, they feared more than the damage to his heart was the damage to his brain. All that night and the next day, Brian remained unconscious. It seemed like forever since Lloyd had left for his business trip the day before. Finally, at 2 o'clock that afternoon, the little boy regained consciousness, sat up, uttering the most beautiful words I've ever heard spoken. He said, "Daddy, hold me." And he reached for his father with his little hands. By the next day, he was pronounced as having no neurological or physical defects, and the story of the miraculous survival spread throughout the hospital. His father wrote, "You could not imagine our gratitude and our joy as we took Brian home. We felt a unique reverence for the life and love of God that comes to those who brush death so closely." But the story doesn't end there. Because this little boy was given a message. He was given a message. So let me continue. Almost a month later to the day after the accident, Brian woke from his afternoon nap and said, "Sit down, Mommy. I have something I want to tell you." And at this time in his life, Brian usually spoke in small phrases. Remember, he's only 3. So to say such a large sentence was a complete surprise to the mother. She sat down with him on his bed and began his remarks of his scared story. "Do you remember when I got stuck under the garage door?" he said. "Well, it was so heavy that it hurt really bad. And I called to you, but you couldn't hear me. And I started to cry, but then it hurt too bad. And then the birdies came." "The birdies?" the mother said. "Yes," he replied. "The birdies made a whooshing sound and flew into the garage. They took care of me." "They did?" she said. "Yes. One of the birdies came and got you. She came to tell you that I was stuck under the door." A sweet, reverent feeling began to fill the room with mother and son. The spirit was so strong and yet lighter than air, and as the mother realized that a 3-year-old had no concept of death and spirits, so he was referring to the beings who came to him from beyond as birdies, because they were in the air like birds that fly. "Well, what did the birdies look like?" the mother asked. And he said, "They were so beautiful. They were dressed in white." "Well, did they say anything?" "Yes," he said. "They told me the baby would be all right." "The baby?" the mother asked, confused. Brian answered, "The baby lying on the garage floor." And he went on. You came out, opened the garage door, and you ran to the baby, and you held the baby to stay and not leave. You told the baby to stay and not leave." Brian's mother nearly collapsed upon hearing this, for she had indeed gone and knelt beside his little body, and seeing his crushed chest and unrecognizable features, knowing that he was already dead, she looked up around her and whispered, "Don't leave us, Brian. Stay if you can." And as she listened to her young son telling her the words that she had spoken, she realized that the spirit had left his body and was looking down from above. We hear so many of that and when people have near-death experiences. "Then what happened?" the mother asked. "Well, we went on a trip," he said, "far, far away." And he grew agitated, trying to say the things that he didn't seem to have words for. Excuse me. His mother wanted to tell something that obviously was very important to him, but finding the words difficult to find. He was only 3. We flew up so fast in the air, and there, it's so pretty, Mommy, he said. And there were lots and lots of birdies. The mom was stunned. But an urgency she'd never seen before. Brian went out to tell her that the birdies had told him that he had to come back and tell everyone about the birdies. He said that they brought him back to the house and that a big fire truck and an ambulance were there, and a man was bringing the baby out of a white bed, and he tried to tell the man that the baby would be okay, but the man couldn't hear him. And he said the birdies told him that he had to go with the ambulance, but they would be near him. And he said they were so pretty and so peaceful that he didn't want to come back. And then the bright light came, and the light was so bright and so warm, and he loved the bright light so much. And someone was in the bright light and put an arms around him and told him, I love you, but you have to go back. You have to play baseball, and you have to tell everyone about the birdies. The person in the bright light kissed him and waved bye-bye. And then whoosh, a big sound came and they went into the clouds. The story went on for an hour. Brian said the birdies were always with us, but we don't see them because we look with our eyes, and we don't hear them because we listen with our ears, but they're always there. You can only see them in here as he put his hand on his heart. They whispered the things to help us to do what is right because they love us so much. Brian continued stating, I have a plan, Mommy. You have a plan? Daddy has a plan. Everyone has a plan. And we must live our plan and keep our promises. The birdies help us do that because they love us so much. They love us so much. We have a plan why we're here. We made a promise to the God of our being when we arrived on planet Earth to become who we came here to be, as Jesus did after the birth. To live fully, sharing our unique and beautiful selves. Jesus knew his plan from the time he was born, and he knew why he was sent here. To become the Prince of Peace. To become love. And to show us how to love. In unity, we take Jesus off the cross and we put him in the manger throughout our lives. Because he is the Prince of Peace. He is our way shower on how to live our life. He saw how God worked things out for him by the God thoughts he had thought throughout his life. But we often can't see through our narrow perspective, as George Bailey could not see, at least at first. But little Brian Glenn could. He saw that we had a purpose. And I'm sure his life continued on from that. So I close with a meditation about what life would be like if we weren't here. A friend's wounded heart would not have been soothed. An animal might not have been rescued. Oh boy, I've had many of those in my life. An amazing child would not have been brought into this world. as you look at your children, those of you that have had children. And look at awe and so moved by what they have accomplished. A piece of art would not have been given beauty and joy to someone, but those of you that are artists. Let your talents show. A piece of music would not have been played, sung, or written. Like A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. It's a beautiful story. A service would not have been offered, like Unity of Payson. A product would not have been made for the entrepreneurs that you are. A difference for good would not have occurred had you not been here to do it. You are special. But we can celebrate, we can truly celebrate that because you were born, because you are here, all these things have taken place and life is much more beautiful, wonderful, because you and Jesus were born. It is a wonderful life. Enjoy it. Merry Christmas.
Merry